The massive alien ship appeared without warning on a quiet Tuesday morning. It simply materialized above New York City, its dark hull blocking out the sun like an artificial eclipse. Within minutes, every news channel worldwide broadcasted the same image. A vessel larger than anything humanity had ever built, hovering silently over Manhattan. Global panic seemed inevitable, but it never came. Instead, the ship projected a calming influence, almost as if it were deliberately dampening humanity's fear response. Military jets scrambled to intercept the vessel found themselves unable to approach within 5 miles, blocked by an invisible barrier that gently pushed them away. At exactly noon Eastern Time, screens worldwide flickered to life simultaneously. Every phone, television, and computer displayed the same image. A human-looking man in a pristine white suit. He looked perfectly normal, except for his eyes. They were completely silver, without pupils or irises. "I am Director Smith of the Galactic Council," the figure announced in perfect English, his voice resonating with an unnatural clarity. "We have been observing your civilization for some time, and we have determined that Earth is ready to join the greater galactic community." He paused, his metallic eyes seeming to stare directly at each viewer individually. "As is customary for all emerging civilizations, you will be required to provide tribute." The UN Security Council convened an emergency session within the hour. Representatives from every nation gathered in New York, their usual political differences forgotten in the face of this unprecedented situation. They watched as Director Smith materialized in the center of the chamber, his presence commanding immediate silence. "The terms are simple," Smith continued, his voice carrying the same artificial perfection it had during the broadcast. "Earth will provide 10% of all its resources annually: minerals, water, biological materials, and energy sources. This tribute ensures your protection and grants you limited access to galactic trade routes." Ambassador Jones, representing the United States, stood up despite his trembling hands. "And if we refuse?" Smith's silver eyes fixed on the ambassador, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. "Refusal is not advised. Previous civilizations that chose that path are no longer part of our records." His smile remained perfectly pleasant, making his words even more chilling. "You have 30 days to prepare your first tribute. We will provide coordinates for delivery." Before anyone could ask another question, Smith vanished, leaving behind only a small crystal cube floating in the air. It projected a holographic display showing exactly what resources were required and their quantities. The list was staggering. 10% of Earth's oil reserves, 10% of all fresh water, 10% of all rare earth elements. The demands would cripple Earth's economy and technological development. President Wilson sat in the Oval Office later that night, surrounded by his top advisors. The Joint Chiefs looked grim as they reviewed the satellite data. The alien ship had been joined by 3 others, all holding position at different points around Earth's orbit. "We can't possibly give them what they're asking for," General Thompson said, his weathered face lined with concern. "It would set us back decades, maybe centuries." "But can we afford to refuse?" asked Dr. Williams, the President's chief science advisor. "Their technology is clearly far beyond ours. Those ships have capabilities we can barely understand." The President stood and walked to the window, looking up at the night sky where he knew the alien vessels waited. "There's something off about all this," he said slowly. "Why do they look human? Why make demands instead of simply taking what they want? And why give us time to prepare?" A junior officer burst into the room, clutching a tablet. "Mr. President, we're picking up readings from the lunar surface. There's something there, something big, and it's been there for a long time. The alien ship's arrival somehow revealed it." The President turned back to the room, his expression hardening with determination. "Get me every scientist, engineer, and military strategist we can trust. Contact our allies, all of them. Tell them to look for similar structures on their territories." He looked each person in the room in the eye. "We have 30 days. Let's make them count. As night fell across America, lights burned in military bases, research facilities, and government buildings. Humanity had just been given an ultimatum, but they weren't about to let an alien council decide their fate without a fight. The game was on, and Earth was playing to win. 3 days after the Galactic Council's ultimatum, the world's top minds gathered in a secret underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. The massive complex, originally built for nuclear survival, now served as humanity's war room. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials sat around a circular table, their faces lit by the blue glow of holographic displays showing the alien ships in orbit. At the center of the table sat a piece of twisted metal, debris from a Council scout ship that had crashed in the Australian outback 2 years ago. Dr. Miller held up the metal fragment, her eyes bright with excitement. "This isn't as advanced as we thought. Look at the molecular structure." She pointed to a microscope display. "It's strong, yes, but not unbeatable. We've already developed materials in our labs that are stronger." General Reed leaned forward, his bushy eyebrows raised. "Are you saying their technology isn't as superior as they want us to believe?" "Exactly," Dr. Miller replied, placing the fragment down. "Their ships are impressive, but they're only about 50 years ahead of our current technology. Not centuries, as we first feared." A murmur ran through the room. Admiral Walker, who had been quietly observing, stood up. "Show them what we found on the moon," he commanded. The holographic display changed, showing a massive structure buried beneath the lunar surface. "This facility is ancient," Dr. Miller explained. "Carbon dating suggests it's been there for at least 100,000 years. And it's not Council technology. It's completely different, more advanced." President Wilson, attending via secure video link, spoke up. "What exactly are you suggesting?" "The Council isn't the supreme power they claim to be," Admiral Walker answered. "They're bullies, preying on younger civilizations. Our deep space telescopes have detected signs of other subjugated worlds. They all follow the same pattern. The Council appears, demands tribute, and slowly drains the planet's resources." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't dealing with an unbeatable foe. They were facing sophisticated pirates. Dr. Miller tapped her tablet, bringing up new data. "We've analyzed their shield technology. It's impressive, but it has a fatal flaw. Their energy fields can't adapt quickly to new types of weapons. They've never needed to because younger civilizations never fight back." General Reed smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "And we humans are very good at creating new ways to fight." The meeting continued through the night. Reports came in from around the world. Russian scientists had discovered weakness in the Council's communication systems. Japanese engineers had already prototyped weapons that could theoretically penetrate their shields. Brazilian researchers had found ways to mask Earth's military preparations from the Council's sensors. But the most surprising discovery came from a young engineer in India. "Their ships run on a form of quantum energy," he explained via video link. "But they're wasteful with it. Our experiments with quantum mechanics are actually more efficient. They rely on brute force rather than elegant solutions." Admiral Walker stood at the room's center, his voice firm. "Here's what we know. The Council has bigger ships and more advanced weapons, but their technology is stagnant. They haven't faced real competition in possibly thousands of years. They're overconfident and inefficient." He pointed to the lunar facility's image. "Whatever civilization built this, they were far more advanced than the Council. And they left it here, perhaps as a gift for whoever found it. We've already begun decoding its database." President Wilson's voice came through clear and determined. "What's our assessment? Can we fight them?" "Better than that," Admiral Walker replied. "We can beat them. They expect us to either submit or fight conventionally. They don't realize that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt and think creatively." The room filled with renewed energy. Scientists and military leaders began working together, forming plans and strategies. Engineers started designing new weapons. Intelligence officers compiled data on Council weaknesses. As dawn broke over the Rocky Mountains, humanity had reached its decision. They would not pay tribute, but they wouldn't fight the Council's way either. They would do what humans did best: change the rules of the game. In orbit, the Council ships maintained their silent watch, unaware that their supposedly primitive targets were preparing a response that would shake the foundations of their galactic empire. The underground war room buzzed with activity on day 7 of the countdown. Admiral Walker stood before a massive digital display, explaining his plan to leaders from around the world. The plan had a simple name: Operation Trojan Horse. The Council expects either submission or direct resistance. Admiral Walker said, pointing to the simulation playing behind him. We'll give them something else entirely. We'll appear to submit while hiding our true intentions. The display showed Earth's cargo ships, massive vessels that would seemingly carry the tribute. But these weren't ordinary cargo ships. Engineers had worked day and night to modify them, turning each one into a hidden weapon. The outer shell of each ship will contain the actual tribute resources, Dr. Miller explained, zooming in on the ship's design. But inside, we've built specialized compartments. The Council's scans will only see what we want them to see. President Wilson's face appeared on a side screen. What about the lunar facility? Have we learned anything useful? Dr. Miller nodded eagerly. We've decoded about 20% of its database. The ancient civilization that built it left us more than just technology. They left us tactical information about species like the Council. They'd done this before, demanding tribute from younger civilizations, but they've never faced what we're planning. General Reed stepped forward, his voice gruff but confident. Every military base on Earth is now running at full capacity. Ships are being built in underground facilities. Weapons are being tested in remote locations. The Council's sensors haven't detected any of it, thanks to the cloaking technology we developed from the lunar database. The room's atmosphere changed as Admiral Walker pulled up the next image. It showed a seemingly normal asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. This is where we'll hide our main fleet, he said. The Council doesn't know we've already started mining operations there. Our ships will wait until the signal is given. A scientist from Japan raised her hand. What about civilian protection? If this goes wrong? Already handled, General Reed interrupted, bringing up a new display. We've converted old missile silos and mines into shelters. They're being stocked with supplies. If things go badly, our people will be safe underground. But they won't need it, because this plan will work. Admiral Walker moved to the center of the room, his voice carrying authority. The Council gave us 30 days, thinking we would waste time arguing among ourselves. Instead, humanity has united. Every nation is playing its part. China is manufacturing ships. Russia is providing resources. The European Union is coordinating the space fleet. African nations are handling resource distribution. South American countries are managing communications. It's the most unified human effort in history. The display changed to show the Council's ships in orbit. They think they're watching us. Admiral Walker continued, but we're the ones gathering intelligence. Every transmission they send, every movement they make, we're learning from it all. Their arrogance is their weakness. Dr. Miller stepped forward again, holding up a small device. This is our newest development. It looks like a simple quantum energy cell, exactly what they're expecting in the tribute, but it's actually a virus of sorts. Once it's connected to their systems, it will give us control of their ship's core functions. The room filled with murmurs of appreciation. This was humanity at its finest, creative, resourceful, and unstoppable when united. We have 23 days left, Admiral Walker said, his voice firm. In that time, we'll complete the fleet, finish the modifications to the cargo ships, and perfect our weapons. When the Council comes to collect their tribute, they'll find out what humanity is truly capable of. President Wilson's voice came through clear and strong. All nations have agreed. Operation Trojan Horse is approved. May God help us all. As the meeting ended, Admiral Walker stayed behind, looking at the lunar facility's image. The ancient civilization had left them more than just technology. They'd left them hope. Humanity wasn't alone in resisting the Council's tyranny. They were just the first to have a real chance at succeeding. Outside the facility, life continued normally. Citizens went about their daily routines, unaware of the massive operation happening beneath the surface. The Council's ships still watched from orbit, seeing exactly what humanity wanted them to see: a civilization preparing to submit to their demands. They couldn't have been more wrong. The day of tribute arrived with a golden sunrise over the Pacific Ocean. 10 massive cargo ships, each the size of a small city, waited in high Earth orbit. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight, looking exactly like what the Council expected: simple transport vessels loaded with Earth's resources. Director Smith materialized on the bridge of the lead cargo ship, his silver eyes scanning the human crew. Captain Harris stood at attention, showing just the right amount of fear and respect. It was a perfect performance, practiced hundreds of times in secret. "Your tribute appears to be in order," Smith said, checking readings on a holographic display. "I must admit, I'm pleased by humanity's quick acceptance of reality." Captain Harris bowed slightly, his hands clasped behind his back where they covered a small control panel. "We understand our place in the galactic community, Director. Earth is honored to provide tribute." Below deck, hidden behind false walls and shielded compartments, thousands of soldiers waited in absolute silence. Each wore a new type of combat suit, developed using knowledge from the lunar facility. The suits made them invisible to Council scanners. Dr. Miller watched from her hidden command center on the moon base. The Council hadn't even noticed humans had reached the moon, their arrogance blinding them to humanity's true capabilities. Her screen showed every detail of the operation, including the massive fleet hiding in the asteroid belt, waiting for the signal. "Scans complete," Director Smith announced. "Begin the transfer of resources to our vessels." He gestured to the massive Council ships that had moved into position around Earth's cargo fleet. Captain Harris pressed a hidden button. Across all 10 cargo ships, outer hatches opened, beginning the transfer of actual resources, the perfect cover for what was really happening. As the Council ships connected with transfer tubes, they unknowingly allowed Earth's ships to establish direct links to their systems. "Tell me, Director," Captain Harris said, maintaining conversation as planned, "how many other civilizations provide tribute to the Council?" Smith smiled condescendingly. "Hundreds. Some have been loyal members for thousands of years. They understand the benefits of our protection." In the hidden command center, Dr. Miller watched as the quantum virus began its work. The infected energy cells, mixed with the genuine tribute resources, were being absorbed into the Council ship's systems. Her screen showed a progress bar: 15%, 30%, 45%. Director Smith frowned slightly, checking his readings. "There's an unusual energy signature in the tribute materials." "Oh." Captain Harris kept his voice steady. "Our extraction methods are somewhat primitive. Perhaps that's the cause." The progress bar reached 60%, 75%, 90%. Smith's silver eyes narrowed. Something isn't right. These readings suggest. "Now," Captain Harris shouted. The cargo ship's outer hulls literally fell away, revealing heavily armed warships underneath. The false walls inside dropped, and thousands of combat-ready soldiers sprang into action. But most importantly, the quantum virus reached 100% penetration. Director Smith's holographic display suddenly went dark. He tried to teleport back to his ship, but nothing happened. For the first time, his perfect composure cracked. "What have you done?" he demanded, his silver eyes wide with genuine fear. Captain Harris stood straighter, no longer playing the role of submissive tribute bearer. "Change the rules, Director. Your ships are now under our control. Your weapons are offline. Your communications are blocked. And our main fleet is about to arrive." As if on cue, hundreds of Earth warships emerged from the asteroid belt, their engines burning bright against the black of space. They had been hidden there for weeks, waiting for this moment. "This is impossible," Smith whispered. "You're primitives. You can't have this level of technology." "We had help," Harris replied, thinking of the lunar facility. From someone who clearly understood the council needed to be stopped. Dr. Miller's voice came through the ship's speakers. "All council ships are locked down. Their crews are contained. Operation Trojan Horse is a success." Director Smith stared out the window as Earth's fleet surrounded his helpless ships. His perfect plan to subjugate another primitive species had just crumbled in less than an hour. In orbit above Earth, the morning sun continued to shine, its light reflecting off the hulls of humanity's ships, no longer bearing tribute, but instead carrying victory. The deception was complete. The real battle was about to begin. The signal "Remember Terra" flashed across every human ship's command screen. Within seconds, the carefully orchestrated battle plan sprang into action. The Council's fleet, still reeling from the quantum virus attack, found themselves surrounded by Earth's hidden armada. But Director Smith wasn't finished yet. From his position on the lead cargo ship, he activated an emergency beacon. Almost immediately, dark shapes began emerging from hyperspace. The Council's reserve fleet. "Did you really think we wouldn't have backup?" Smith's silver eyes gleamed with renewed confidence. 50 more Council warships appeared, their weapons charging. Captain Harris remained calm, a slight smile on his face. "Actually, we counted on it." He pressed a button on his command chair. "Admiral Walker, they're exactly where we want them." The Council's reserve ships moved to attack positions, their superior size making them look like giants compared to Earth's vessels. But size wasn't everything, as humanity was about to prove. "All ships, execute Pattern Delta." Admiral Walker's voice boomed through the command channel. Earth's smaller ships suddenly split into groups of 3, moving in strange, unpredictable patterns that the Council's targeting systems couldn't track. Dr. Miller watched from the lunar base as her new weapons system activated. "Their shields are calibrated for energy weapons," she reported. "They've never seen anything like what we're about to use." Earth's ships launched their first attack. Instead of energy beams, they fired thousands of tiny missiles, each one containing a special magnetic pulse developed from the lunar facility's database. The Council's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing to stop these physical projectiles. "Impossible." Director Smith shouted as the first Council ship's shields flickered and died. "Your weapons are primitive." "No," Captain Harris corrected him. "They're different. Sometimes the old ways work better than the new ones." The space around Earth erupted into chaos. Council ships, their shields useless against human weapons, try to adapt. But every time they changed their defense patterns, Earth's forces switched tactics. Small fighter craft, hidden inside the larger ships, swarmed out like angry bees. They carried weapons that changed frequency with every shot, preventing the Council from adapting. Admiral Walker's voice remained steady through it all. "Group 2, target their engines. Group 3, take out their communication arrays. Group 4, prepare boarding parties." The Council's mighty ships, for the first time in centuries, found themselves on the defensive. Their crews, used to easy victories over primitive civilizations, had no experience with real combat. In contrast, humanity had been fighting wars throughout its history. They knew how to adapt, how to think creatively in battle. "Their main reactor is overloading," Dr. Miller reported as another Council ship fell to Earth's attacks. They never considered someone might turn their own energy systems against them. Director Smith watched in horror as his reserve fleet was systematically taken apart by the supposedly primitive humans. Ships that had survived centuries of enforcing the Council's will were being disabled by weapons they had never seen before. "Order all remaining ships to retreat," Smith commanded into his emergency communicator. But no one answered. The quantum virus had spread through their entire network, trapping the Council ships in Earth's gravity well. Captain Harris stood from his command chair. It's over, Director. Your fleet is trapped. Your weapons are useless. And humanity just proved we're not as primitive as you thought. The battle had lasted less than an hour. Around Earth's orbit, disabled Council ships drifted helplessly, their crews surrendering one by one. Earth's smaller vessels moved between them, looking tiny but victorious beside the giant alien ships. Admiral Walker's face appeared on the main screen. Status report from all groups. 15 Council ships disabled, 10 surrendered, the rest contained, came the reply. Human casualties minimal. No civilian casualties. Operation Trojan Horse is complete. Director Smith slumped in defeat as human soldiers entered the bridge. His silver eyes had lost their shine. How? He whispered. How did you do this? Captain Harris looked out at Earth, beautiful and blue below them. We did it because we had no choice. Humanity doesn't submit. We adapt. We overcome. And now, Director, we're going to have a long talk about the future of the Galactic Council. The sun rose over North America, its light reflecting off the scattered remains of battle, marking the day humanity proved itself to the galaxy. The Council's flagship drifted powerless above Earth, its once mighty engines silent. Inside the main conference room, Director Smith sat at a table surrounded by human leaders. His perfect composure was gone, replaced by nervous glances at the combat-suited guards around him. Admiral Walker spread out a series of holographic images showing Council ships being systematically disabled by Earth's forces. Now, he said, you're going to tell us everything about the Council's operations. You don't understand what you've done, Smith replied, his silver eyes dimming. The Council maintains order. Without us, the galaxy would fall into chaos. Dr. Miller walked in, carrying a data pad loaded with information from the lunar facility. Is that what you told the Centauri civilization before you destroyed them? Or the Proxima colonies before you drained their resources? Smith's face showed genuine shock. How do you know about them? We had help, Dr. Miller answered, activating a hologram showing the lunar facility's database. The civilization you thought you destroyed. They left us a message. They knew you would come eventually. The hologram showed images of a highly advanced civilization that had existed thousands of years ago. They had fought the Council and seemingly lost, but they had planned ahead. They had hidden their knowledge in facilities across the galaxy, waiting for species strong enough to find it and use it. Impossible, Smith whispered. We erased all trace of them. You missed some, Captain Harris said, entering the room. And now we found more facilities like the one on our moon. They're everywhere, aren't they? Hidden on moons and asteroids throughout the galaxy, waiting for someone to fight back. President Wilson's voice came through the main speakers. We've decoded more of the database. The Council isn't a governing body at all. You're pirates, using advanced technology to bully younger civilizations. Smith's shoulders slumped. We thought we were untouchable. No species had challenged us in thousands of years. We grew complacent. More than complacent, Admiral Walker corrected. You grew cruel. How many civilizations have you destroyed? How many species have you enslaved through your tribute system? The answers came flooding out. The Council had been operating for millennia, finding developing civilizations and either subjugating them or destroying them. They hadn't faced real resistance since the ancient civilization that built the lunar facility. Dr. Miller studied her readings. Your technology isn't even that advanced. You've just been hoarding it, keeping other species down so they couldn't challenge you. We maintained order, Smith insisted weakly. No, Admiral Walker said firmly. You maintained control. There's a difference. Suddenly, communications started coming in from across the galaxy. Other civilizations, seeing the Council's defeat at Earth's hands, were rising up. The quantum virus had spread through the entire Council network, disabling their ships everywhere. Your empire is falling, Captain Harris announced, showing Smith the reports. And you know what? The galaxy will be better for it. Dr. Miller's data pad beeped with new information from the lunar facility. "We've found something else," she said, excitement in her voice. "The ancient civilization. They didn't just leave us weapons and technology. They left us star maps. Coordinates to thousands of worlds the Council has been suppressing." Admiral Walker turned to Smith. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to help us contact every civilization you've been exploiting. You're going to tell us about every hidden facility, every suppressed species, every secret you've kept." "And if I refuse?" Smith asked, a last hint of defiance in his voice. "Then we'll do it without you," Captain Harris replied. "We've already broken your encryption. We have your navigation data. We don't need you. But cooperating might help when the other species demand justice." Outside the conference room windows, Earth's fleet surrounded the disabled Council ships. Teams of human engineers were already studying the alien vessels, learning their secrets. But more importantly, they were finding ways to improve them. "You should have just left us alone," Admiral Walker said quietly. "Humanity doesn't take well to bullies." As the sun set over Earth, news of the Council's defeat spread across the galaxy. Species that had paid tribute for generations began to rise up. The age of the Council was ending. And humanity, the primitive species that dared to fight back, had lit the spark of revolution among the stars. 6 months after humanity's victory over the Galactic Council, Earth had changed dramatically. Spaceships now regularly filled the skies, carrying diplomats and traders from dozens of freed civilizations. The once secret lunar base had become humanity's primary diplomatic center, hosting representatives from across the galaxy. Admiral Walker stood at the observation deck, watching ships from 20 different species dock at the newly constructed space station. Below him, Earth glowed blue and peaceful, no longer alone in the vast universe. "The latest report, Admiral," Captain Harris said, entering the room with a datapad. 3 more Council holdout stations have surrendered. The Liberation fleets reached the Orion sectors last week. The news brought a smile to the Admiral's face. After Earth's victory, other species had quickly joined the fight. The Council's power had crumbled like a house of cards once someone showed it could be done. Dr. Miller burst into the room, her eyes bright with excitement. "You need to see this." She activated the main display, showing a massive structure hidden inside an asteroid. "We just found their main archive. Everything the Council ever stole or hid. It's all there." The archive contained technologies and knowledge from thousands of civilizations. The Council hadn't destroyed everything they'd taken. They kept it, hoarding the achievements of countless species. "Send word to every liberated world," Admiral Walker ordered. "Tell them we found their lost heritage." In the main conference chamber, President Wilson addressed the first meeting of the new Galactic Alliance. Representatives from over 50 species filled the room, each with their own story of Council oppression and newfound freedom. "Earth doesn't seek to replace the Council," Wilson declared. "We propose a true alliance where every species has an equal voice. Together, we can build something better than what the Council destroyed." Director Smith, now a prisoner helping to dismantle the Council's remaining power, watched from a secure room. "You've changed everything," he said quietly to Captain Harris. "The galaxy hasn't seen cooperation like this in millennia." "Because you didn't allow it," Harris replied. "But look what happens when species work together instead of fighting each other." The proof was everywhere. Ships built with combined technology from multiple species now explored further than ever before. Medical knowledge shared between worlds was curing diseases thought incurable. Trade routes once controlled by the Council now flowed freely, bringing prosperity to formerly oppressed planets. Dr. Miller's team had continued decoding the lunar facility's database. "The ancient civilization," she explained to the Alliance Council, "they didn't just leave us weapons to fight the Council. They left us plans for a better galaxy. They believed that someday, someone would be strong enough to unite people instead of conquering them." In orbit, the massive Council ships that once inspired fear had been transformed. Some became hospitals, others schools or research centers. Humanity had refused to destroy them, choosing instead to turn tools of oppression into instruments of progress. "We've received the first reports from the deep space expeditions," Captain Harris announced. "There are more civilizations out there, hidden even from the Council. Some are just developing. Others have been in hiding for centuries. Contact them all," Admiral Walker ordered. "Let them know they don't have to hide anymore. The galaxy is entering a new age." President Wilson stood at the Alliance podium one last time that day. 6 months ago, Earth was alone, facing an enemy we thought unbeatable. Today, we stand together with friends from across the stars. We've proven that unity is stronger than fear, that cooperation achieves more than conquest. The chamber erupted in applause from a dozen different species. Some floated, some walked on multiple legs, others existed as pure energy. But all were equal now. Above Earth, ships from the combined Alliance fleet performed a victory formation. Their crews included humans working alongside aliens, learning from each other, growing stronger together. In his cell, Director Smith watched the celebration through his window. "We thought humanity was primitive," he mused. "But you weren't primitive at all. You were just young. And sometimes, the young see things the old have forgotten." As night fell over Earth, the stars seemed brighter than ever before. But they no longer represented distant, unreachable points of light. Now they were doorways to friendly worlds, paths to new discoveries, and reminders that in the vastness of space, the strongest force wasn't advanced technology or military might. It was unity. The Galactic Council's age of oppression had ended. The age of humanity's leadership through cooperation had begun.